Watch out!
Hey everybody! Okay, so we have a lot to talk about this week for sure, and I promise we're going to get to it all. We're going to talk about the leaks for ZA's prototype, we're going to talk about Terra Leak 2 with the stuff from Gen 10 and all of that, but for now, I want us to focus on the reviews that are coming out for Pokemon Legends ZA, because this is the game that's in our immediate future, literally, what, a day or two from now? 2 days from now. So I think it might be good for us at least to take some time right now to live in the moment and get excited for the game that we are really about to get. I've been hearing good things about the reviews, and I'm curious to see if there's any bad reviews too, but we're going to be taking a look at them on Metacritic and seeing what people are having to say about the game. And by people, I specifically mean critics. Let's go ahead and take a look together. So here is the Metacritic page for Pokemon Legends ZA, and we're going to start at the top here with a review outlet called the Sixth Axis. Oh, yeah, you guys probably heard that. The Sixth Axis. Thank you. That was more of a tongue twister than I feel like it needed to be for me. Now, reading this review, they have a few really good things to say. One of my favorites is that they're talking about the city, the fact that the game takes place in a city, and they say it's not a problem at all. Matter of fact, they really like it. They call it their playground of sorts. They say it doesn't feel like a jail cell to be in the city. It feels like a playground. And I like that outlook on it because that's kind of what I'm hoping for. As someone who likes cities in real life, I am down for a setting of a city being the entirety of a game as long as it's done right. As long as the city itself has enough variables, enough variety, then I'm all in. Like, think about like games like Cyberpunk or Grand Theft Auto, right? Those take place in the confines of a city, but they have enough going on within that city to where you don't think about it as, oh, I'm just like stuck in a city. You think of it like, oh yes, that city is my playground. So it's nice to know that at least this reviewer got that impression while playing the game. They also mentioned that you have a lot of ways that you can parkour around the city and that there's certain collectibles that you can get by doing certain parkour moves around the city. I guess with like with your Rotom phone, like how you like can bridge gaps and stuff. And they say that most buildings, if not all buildings, we can either go into or on top of. So there is that. If you guys have seen, it turns out that the entire map is actually one model. So gosh, I hope so. I hope we can traverse the whole thing. I wonder if any of these reviews are going to reveal if there's an underground area or not. So lo and behold, this is the only 100 or 10 out of 10 that Pokemon Legends ZA has gotten, as far as I see. Let me just double check that. No, I take it back. VGC also gave it 100. So that's two games, or two gaming outlets that gave the game a 10 out of 10, 100. Very, very interesting. Let's actually look at that review as well then, because that gets me excited. Switch 1's limitations fail to take the shine off a Pokemon adventure that has finally aged up with the audience. So are they only reviewing the Switch 1 version? Is that why? Okay, so not even that far into the review, and I'm already seeing some really good things that I was looking for with this game. One of which has to do with the side quests and the story. Now, VGC is explaining that the story is very complex and mature compared to Pokemon standards, which is saying a lot because I think Legends Arceus and Scarlet Violet, at least the late game of Scarlet and Violet, were really deep and provocative stories. So I am interested to see if this one really is that much better than those, perchance. The side quest was also one of my favorite parts of Legends Arceus, not only because they were fun to do, but because the story and the lore drops that we got with those were really interesting. Now we have Legends ZA, and apparently some of them are legitimately funny. That's interesting. Plenty of side quest writing evoking genuine laughs. That's actually crazy. I'm looking forward to that because, again, Legends Arceus really did evoke genuine laughs from me. So I'm curious to see if this one will follow suit, you know, in the ways that I'm hoping it will. Even more interesting to me is they mention not only does it reference deep cut X and Y lore, but fan memes, conspiracy theories, and long-standing community jokes all get a wink and a nod. Okay, so you know that Ghost Girl is going to be a part of that somewhere, but I'm so curious to see what else. I wonder if stuff is going to happen with AZ as well. Maybe some funny stuff or maybe some serious stuff. I don't know. Let's see what else they say in this review. Here's an interesting quote, and they knew it was interesting when they said it because they quoted it themselves, but they said, if the main Pokemon series battle system feels like math problems displayed by sprites bashing into each other, ZA feels like an action game. Okay. I don't think that sounds as good as they think it sounds because, yeah, this is an action game for Pokemon, just as much as Pokemon's an RPG usually. I don't understand why that was a comparison they made. Like if water is water, then this orange is an orange. Like that's what it sounds like. Like, okay, there's like no weight to that statement. It just, you're saying like X is X and Y is Y. Okay. Anyways, moving on. That was just a weird part of the review that I just can't stop thinking about. But in all realness, to be fair, a lot of these outlets and people reviewing the game are saying that it is a fun combat system. So, ooh, this is important. Okay, they say here, the game's Pokedex is an excellent mix of Kalos native Pokemon and fan favorites, but it's disappointing that trading is required to complete it. That means we have to trade to get certain Pokemon. No, that was part of what I loved about Legends Arceus. It was a single player experience at its core. You can have multiplayer without having to require multiplayer for things, Game Freak. Come on. Okay, so trading's required to complete it. Something Arceus sidestepped within its... Yeah, okay. So I kind of wish that they did this like Arceus as well. I'm not happy about trading being a requirement for Pokemon to get certain Pokemon again because, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I've always been kind of a loner when it comes to playing my Pokemon games. It's because it's like I treat them like a single player adventure game. I don't treat them as a multiplayer experience typically, unless I'm playing like a spin-off like Pokemon Unite or something, right? Where it's specifically, you know, supposed to be multiplayer, or maybe with Pokopia when that comes out, I'm definitely going to play that multiplayer because, you know, we're going to want to share our customization and stuff together with each other. But a game like this where, you know, there's a multiplayer mode that I'm kind of interested in, but trading, I just feel like it's superfluous when it comes to the grand scheme of what Legends EA is going for. Like, it's just, you know, it seems at its core also a single player action-based experience. Why do we need to require multiplayer for an in-game goal that we could achieve otherwise and have achieved in a previous Pokemon game, being Legends Arceus? I don't know, it was weird. Weird to me. Ooh, I found a way to get those ads out of you guys' faces, so I'm gonna keep it like this going forward. So the last interesting thing I noticed from this particular review is that they mentioned that Zygarde has earned a lot of the focus that he gets in this game, and that he might become a fan favorite after this. So I'm very curious to see how and why, because I agree with them. Zygarde has been kind of an obscure legendary. Not many people really talk about or care about Zygarde unless it's on the concept or topic of saying, well, we never got Pokemon Z and Zygarde kind of got shoved to the side. You know, that's really all the discourse that currently revolves around him. And I guess this game really might change that according to what they're saying. He earns a focus and might be a character in his own right that we come to enjoy. Now, at a quick glance, we have some scores in the 90s, and they're talking about, you know, the good performance, smooth gameplay, and a lot of them are saying that this feels like one of the best Pokemon games in the series, and that it's a must play for them. That's very interesting to me. So the 90s are pretty solid on those points. I want to see what they're taking points off for. Let's take a deeper look at that and why. So one of them laid it out plainly here with a pros and cons list. So they're pros, and this was a 92, right? So there's going to be very little cons that detract from it, or if they are more than just a few, they're very minor cons. So let's see. All right, the plot of the game goes from less to more. Okay, that's nice. These are the pluses, not the cons. The game's visual style on Switch 2 is a leap forward. Okay, some mega evolutions will leave you speechless. Okay, that's nice to know. The plot of some secondary characters and how they fit into the life of Lumiose is, I guess, a good thing. Okay, nice. It is a game aware of the real world and deals with relevant themes in the form of social criticism. Ooh, I love that. Okay, you know, maybe that goes with that mature storytelling that VGC was discussing earlier. The localization into Spanish is exquisite. Okay, yes. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the first one to have a certain type of Spanish language localized. So it's good to know. It's good to know that they did it justice. The play duration is 30 to 50 hours on average. So that's nice. Okay, now the cons. The game structure can be somewhat repetitive for some players. That's really is a fear a lot of us are having, especially with it taking place in a city. Some technical shortcomings in the form of details could be polished. That's Game Freak for you. I can only hope that their new game engine on Switch 2 moving forward, which ZA takes place in the previous game engine, but I think all games after ZA are going to take place in a different engine from what we know from videos I'm going to be talking to you guys about in the future this week. So, okay. Yeah, that's come to be expected though at this point. Hopefully a new game engine will polish all that out or help them polish that out easier and faster and better. Now, the last con is the lack of differentiation between the neighborhoods of Lumiose. There we go. There it is right there. That's what we're scared about, is that the Lumiose city is not going to be varied enough. And that seems to be, from what we're seeing, a common thread. And I think we're probably going to see more across more reviews that we're about to look at. So looking forward, there's a lot of 90s, 90 from Silicon Era, 90 from RPG Site, 90 from Tech Radar. Yeah, so lots of 9s. That's a good sign. I'm curious to see what the average ends up being once every review is in, because right now it's sitting at an 81% on Switch 2, with Switch 1 not really being labeled for anything yet, which is kind of interesting. I guess everyone's really playing it on Switch 2, I guess. All right, scrolling up from the lowest positive review, they're talking about it suffers from outdated graphics, but it's fun. That's typically a consensus among most Pokemon games. The modernizations and the new mechanics are very much appreciated, but they still aren't perfect or polished to the fullest extent that they could be. And apparently specifically around the gameplay loop. Again, this is not the first person we're seeing talk about this. Now, a lot of these in the 80s talk about the story like it's a little more meh than the people with the higher scores, but they still say, it's a fun game, blah, blah, blah. It's fun, but the graphics and the story are whatever. And it's very similar among these 10 percentage brackets. Like the 80s say most of the same things, the 70s say most of the same things, the 90s say most of the same things, and the 100s said very similar things as well. It's also worth noting that quite a few of these are talking about how handholdy the beginning of the game is, which is something even Legends Arceus suffered from. The beginning of the game, like the first 2 hours or so, is just so much pointless dialogue. It becomes like a press the A button simulator to get through loads and loads of dialogue that don't go anywhere, don't mean anything much, and aren't enjoyable to read. It's crazy to me. But yeah, they are saying that the time in Lumiose City and the time in Legends ZA itself is a good time. Now, let's look at the bad reviews, the reviews where they criticize it more. Hopefully fairly criticized and not unfairly. Let's find out. Now, there is some good news on that front, actually. There are no negative reviews currently for Pokemon Legends ZA, at least not on Switch 2, and there's really no reviews up for Switch 1 yet. So we're going to look at mixed reviews, which is apparently as bad as it gets. It's just mixed. That's not bad at all. If your worst reviews are mixed reviews, that's a really good sign for your game. So let's take a look here. We've got lots of 70s. I just want to look at the range of numbers we're going to get. 70s and 60s, and I think there's only 7 in total, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes. So 7 reviews. Most of them are 70s with 160. Now, Eurogamer here gave it the worst score out of everyone so far. Let's take a look at that review and see why they feel that way. Interestingly enough, even though this is one of the worst reviews that the game has gotten, they're still giving quite a lot of praise in here so far. Even talking about the comedy. Again, apparently this game is funny. Apparently there's like actual genuinely good jokes. If even the worst review score on the board is talking about some great offbeat humor, oddball characters, a bundle of joy. Wow, like these are high praise, honestly, compared to what I've seen in Pokemon experiences. That's usually not that great. So I'm glad to see that we might be having just like a fun, goofy old time with this game. Like that's a fun experience to me. I'm well in the mood for that. You know, I scrolled down a bit through here to see what else they have to say. And again, they're going back to the humor. The humor of the game. This is so weird. They said Legends EA's writing is for once a bit of a strength. Like, this is so weird that they even said this again later on in the article, not just that one time. Okay, I won't lie. I really struggled to find the negatives within this review. It's really written in between the lines half the time. Like, they will say something really good and then like a slight negative connotation with that. So the best I can guess on why they deducted so many points is they're saying that this seems like a proof of concept, but they're mad that it's so bite-sized, that the proofs of concepts are so bite-sized as well, not just the game. They're mad that the game is sandwiched in between very unsturdy games. I guess they're talking about Scarlet, Violet, and I actually don't know what the other game they're talking, whatever the next game is. Maybe they think that's not going to be sturdy. I don't know. But I understand coming off of Scarlet and Violet regardless, like we wanted the next one to be a banger. Like if you have a game that's, you know, pretty consensus to be that bad, you would think it's because they were throwing it under the bridge for the next installment, right? But this is that next installment. And so to have it just be a bite-sized proof of concept mini type game, like I can see the disappointment and I can see that deducting a lot of points. Now, they did mention some inconsistencies with the ideas of the game. They talked about how the player taking damage is weird to them because they feel like it's unnecessary within the confines of a city or a modern day experience where we actually do have Pokemon trainers now, as opposed to when we were, you know, living in the wildlands of the wild with Pokemon as people who weren't trainers, you know, back in the day of Legends Arceus. So I understand all that. I am surprised they deducted so many points for what seemed like not many cons, although they kept saying a lot of very pointed praises sometimes. So they would say, you know, the new animations and dialogue are great, but, you know, only by comparison to Pokemon games. I think it's because they're really comparing this game to non-Pokemon games, which is very valid. And I agree, we should do that. So it actually makes me wonder how skewed the more positive scores are. Again, a lot of people really do only compare Pokemon to Pokemon when it should be compared to gaming as a whole. Or it should be compared to both, but it needs to be compared to both. A lot of people only compare it to Pokemon. And I'm like, come on, let's be so for real right now, you know? So again, this is the most negative review on there, and it's not that negative. So I guess that goes to show you that this game is just going to be fun. Like it even if bite-sized, even if the game is bite-sized, even if the things to enjoy within the game feel bite-sized, it is going to be overall a positive experience from the looks of it. So that's super exciting. And again, we only have 2 days till this comes out. So I'm really hoping that you all enjoy the game. I'm hoping I enjoy the game. I'm going to be recording my gameplay on my own time and then sharing stuff with you as I go through that. I think that's a more fun way for me to share my experience rather than streaming and competing with a bunch of other people that are going to be streaming. I don't want to compete for your time like that. So I'll just show you like the best highlights of what I find or what I do in the game, and we'll have fun with that on top of continuing to talk about the game itself and what our experiences are like with it in general. And also, yeah, the leaks. We have to talk about the leaks in the coming days. I will get to them. There's a lot to go over. I'm kind of trying to divide them into different videos to talk about different aspects of the leaks because, you know, the leaks went in all sorts of different directions, you know, so we're going to be talking about all of that. So be free to stick around the channel, please. In the meantime, you can check out more of my videos like this one here where I talk about the leaks that we're getting, hardcore leaks for Legends EA. The link is in front of you or in the pinned comment. If you like what I do, want to support me, and have your name featured at the end of all of my videos, then please join my Patreon with the link in front of you or in the description. I've been JotoJohnny, and I'll catch you all there.